right, now before I get down here, I just want to tell you one of the best things about working for the railroad is that at times walking is completely optional. That's right, lazy man's dream. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to East Chattanooga. As you can see right down there, we have quite literally reached the end of our little 3-mile railroad. Now what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that we do have to turn our locomotive around today. Now to turn the locomotive around, we are going to be using our turntable. Now this turntable here was built back in 1916 by the American Bridge Company of Ambridge, Pennsylvania. It was built for use at the locomotive shops in Macon, Georgia on the Central of Georgia Railway. It'd be used in Macon, Georgia from 1916 all the way up until 1925. In 1925, ladies and gentlemen, this turntable would be relocated to Cedartown, Georgia, where in Cedartown it would spend the rest of its in-service career. Now, we acquired this turntable in the late 1970s. We've moved to this location, and it would receive a $100,000 overhaul. This turntable's first day of service here at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum was on July 4th of 1982. This turntable is 80 feet long, and it weighs in at 80 tons. Now, ladies and gentlemen, your locomotive today, the 710, it weighs in at around 200 or 120 tons, making the overall weight between the two just around 200 tons or 400,000 pounds. I apologize, the math took me a minute. I'm still in college. I'm working on it. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I know what you're thinking. Justin, it's getting hot out here. Why in the world are you rambling on about the weight? Why should I care? Really? Okay, that's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, out there is your engineer trainee, Jason. He agrees. He's hot. He's ready to go. I know, like I said, I know what you're thinking. Why are you telling me this? Well, folks, remember that number, 200 tons or 400,000 pounds, when I tell you that this turntable would have originally been turned by hand. That's right, folks. It was originally called an Armstrong table. Now, back in the days of steam, there would have been a set of poles extending from each corner of our turntable, and it would have then taken at least 4 people to completely turn the table around. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Me and Hunter here, my trainman, we're hot. We're tired. It's been a long day already. So, folks, unfortunately, I have 125 people that need to ride back to their car. So I need 4 volunteers. Anybody? I have 1. Thank you. Do I have any more?
Wow. Raise your hand.
He volunteered somebody, so I got a 2-for-1 deal. I just got 2 right there. I need 1 more.
Go ahead, Tom.
I have 4 right there. So, folks, for the 4 of you that volunteered, we thank you. I say you 4 there are going to be serving as something very important. You guys are going to be serving as emotional support. That's right, folks. All of you guys can participate. You guys are going to be serving as emotional support for my trainman, Hunter. Everybody say hi, Hunter.
Hi, Hunter.
Okay. Everybody say thank you, Hunter.
Thank you, Hunter.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hunter there is the strongest man in the world. He's going to turn 200 tons or 400,000 pounds with the use of only 1 finger. That's right, folks. Hunter's going to use that 1 finger. He's going to push a button and initiate a 25 horsepower electric motor located right there underneath the operator's shed.
There you go.
And once he brings the locomotive on, we can begin to turn. Now, the way they were able to turn this locomotive by hand, and even the way we're able to turn it by motor today, is by ensuring that the table is balanced. Now, 40 feet in the center of the turntable, there's a 6-foot in diameter ball bearing. Now, engineer trainee Jason must balance all 120 tons of the 710 over that little 6-foot ball bearing. Now, the way that Jason there knows he has a balanced turntable is by watching the far end here where I'm standing. Now, once the locomotive is balanced on the turntable, you should see this end here drop by about 3 inches. As we like to say here at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum, once the table drops, Jason stops. So everybody watch for that very subtle drop on my end here. Just like that, we are perfectly balanced and we can begin to turn. Now, before I can tell you about the locomotive you're riding in today. I need to tell you about your student engineer, Jason. Everybody say hi, Jason.
Jason.
Everybody say you're doing a great job, Jason. Ladies and gentlemen, the locomotive today is none other than Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis Railway number 710. The 710 here was built in 1950 by the Electromotive Division of General Motors. It was built for use on the Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis Railway as a switch engine. That's right, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. This locomotive was used as a switching engine, moving cuts of cars around a rail yard. It would also be used on the occasional road freight train. Now, this locomotive would be involved in a head-on collision on the Louisville and Nashville Railroad a little later in its career in 1975. Now, in 1975, it would be involved in a head-on collision on the Louisville and Nashville in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, it seemed that the 710 would be no more. That is, until a small railroad that I was poking fun at earlier, Amtrak, would buy the locomotive, they would actually rebuild it, and put it back into service. But this locomotive would serve for Amtrak up until the 1990s when it was again sold, this time to the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. We acquired the locomotive, put it back in service, and it returned to its original Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis appearance in 2004. And this has become one of our most used and most reliable locomotives on property. Now, I may be a little biased because I am a student engineer too, but that's personally my favorite locomotive to run because of its dependability. Now, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, but we don't have any lasers or computer systems to allow us to line the turntable up with track number 2. As you saw, I was working with my trainman Hunter and using the old eyesight method. With a couple of minor adjustments, we got the locomotive lined up with track number 2. They can perform a runaround. What that means is that Hunter and our locomotive will go past our train, they'll then reverse, couple on, and they'll go on down the railroad. So with that being said, that will conclude the turntable demonstration. Folks, how about a quick round of applause for our crew today, as we couldn't have done it without them.